Welcome back to Riverside, Thailand. It's Thursday, October 8th. And it is not only Thursday, October 8th, it is the day for the somewhat dreaded return to immigration. I say dreaded because I really don't know what's going to happen. The basic situation is pretty simple. I currently have an extension of stay until October 26th, which is a fairly short time in the future. But according to a new announcement, a new policy from the government, people like me who have an extension of stay till October 26th, we can have it automatically extended until November 30th. There's a whole complicated story behind that I won't get into at this time. But basically, that's why I'm going to immigration right now. I'm hoping that I can just hand them my passport. They will open it, see my extension of stay to October 26th. And I'm sure they know me there by now. I've been there so many times. They probably have my records memorized. And then they will just take out a new stamp and put in a new stamp and write in the date November 30th. A friend of mine from the United States, he's also here in Riverside, he went there yesterday and he was in the exact same situation as me. He had applied for the extension to October 26th and he went in there to get that stamp, and they gave him two stamps. They stamped in October 26th, and then they put in the new stamp for November 30th. So he sent me a message yesterday saying that everything went smoothly. So I'm hoping that everything will go smoothly for me. I'm sitting here at the First Hotel. This is a hotel I stayed at quite a while ago when I first came to Riverside. It's well known for its teak wood carvings, its teak decor. I can show you a little bit of what's around me. There's the ceiling directly above me. This is outside the lobby, and you can see the gateway through the doors, an elaborate teak carving, more carvings over there. And that whole decor continues on the inside, and it even continues in the rooms as well with big teak headboards. And the hallways, the ceiling of the hallways is nothing but teak wood carvings from end to end. It's really quite impressive. Anyway, the only reason I came here was because it is a convenient place for me to get a taxi to the immigration office. I had plans to rent a bicycle, actually, and ride a bike out to immigration. But when I got up this morning, it was pouring rain, and I didn't want to face the rain. And I was actually going to postpone my trip until tomorrow, until Friday. But then it cleared up a little bit. At least it stopped raining. So I thought, oh, let's just get this over with. I don't want this errand hanging over my head. I want to get it taken care of as soon as possible. And now it's too late to get there by bicycle. Taxi got here quicker than I expected. Oh, off we go to immigration. I'm already here at the immigration office. That's the building behind me. The section for foreigners is that tiny spot right over there off on the left. That's where the section for foreigners like me is located. Quick story though, the taxi driver, he showed up and we ran into an issue that I've come across in Asia almost all the time. When I book the taxi myself, when I've called the company, the woman who talks to me speaks English, and she understands that I want to go to the immigration office. She knows that in English, and I've never had an issue. But since the clerk at the hotel, the First Hotel, he was kind enough to call the taxi company for me, so he didn't tell them where I was going. So the driver, he wanted to know, where I wanted to go. And I said in English, immigration office. The taxi drivers here, they know border. A lot of foreigners take the taxi or they used to take a taxi to the border with Myanmar because they're going to cross the bridge into Myanmar. So they all know the English word border. And that usually is enough to get me here. But this taxi driver, he wanted to know, well, which border crossing? Do you want Friendship Bridge number 1 or Friendship Bridge number 2? Because there are 2 of them. There's this one, and then there's another one further away. And I didn't know. I wasn't I think this is Friendship Bridge number 1, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. So I didn't really know how to tell him number 1 or number 2. So we ended up in this little bit of a loop as I'm trying to explain to him where it is I want to go. And the weird thing that I run into, that I mentioned, is that my go-to system for dealing with anything, of course, is to go to Google Maps. Back in the old days, it would be a paper map. I'm a map guy. I think most Canadians are. If I'm talking to someone about where I want to go or the location of something, the first thing I do is break out a map. But in Asia in general, that has never worked. When I show a map to a local person, they don't even look at it. They just sort of dismiss it out of hand. A map doesn't help them in any way for some reason. And I thought it would be pretty easy. I can just call up Google Maps. I can show Mesot, show this bridge behind me, you know, the Friendship Bridge. And I can even zoom in on the Teak immigration office, click on that, and it shows the name of it in Thai and in English. It should be quite obvious. But as soon as I show a map related anything to someone in Asia, they just sort of turn away from it. They're like, I don't know what that is, and I don't want to deal with that. They won't engage with the map, because they think in terms of landmarks. Okay, is it Friendship Bridge 1 or 2? That's what he needs to know. And I can show him 50 different maps to demonstrate where I want to go, but none of that will help him understand. So it's just kind of a strange thing I've noticed. Anyway, we eventually worked our way through it. He got out his phone, and it's almost like being in a game show where you can phone a friend. I run into that a lot, of course, around the world, where this person may not speak English, but they all have a friend who is the English expert, and he had a phone a friend option. So he phoned a friend and handed the phone to me, and the woman I spoke with spoke perfect English, whoever she was, and she asked me where I wanted to go, and I explained Friendship Bridge. I wanted to go to the immigration office at the border. It's the bridge across from Mayawadi. And the taxi driver also kept asking me, or kept saying, oh, so you want to walk across the bridge to go to Myanmar? That's what you want to do. And I'm trying to say, no, I'm not going to Myanmar. The border is closed. I can't go to Myanmar. So I didn't even think that was a discussion we needed to have. But we worked our way through that. And then after I spoke with his phone-a-friend English expert, I handed the phone back to him, and she explained to him, and here I am at immigration. So, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't see huge crowds around the door, which is nice. As I said, that little office over there, it says foreign. You can just make out the word foreign there. And I'm going to turn the camera off, of course, and put it away. The poor women, not the poor women, but the women who work in the office there, they have enough to deal with. They don't need me bringing a camera into their workspace and shoving it in their faces. So I'm just going to put it away, and I'll check back in when I emerge, hopefully in a short time, with a brand new visa stamp. Well, if I was not wearing a mask, you would see that I am smiling. My whole interaction at immigration could not possibly have gone any smoother, faster, and in a more pleasant fashion. Everything that I hoped would happen actually happened. I simply walked in, and I was the only person there. Again, the entire office was empty except for the 3 or 4 immigration clerks. And I had my passport in my hand. I walked up to one of the counters and handed my passport over to the woman. I tried to say why I was there, but I kind of assumed she would know. And she opened to the page on my passport that said extension of stay until October 26th. And as soon as she saw that, she said, oh yeah, okay, you're one of those guys. You're one of those people. and she handed it off to the next woman. She got out her giant box of stamps and then used all the stamps on her desk, got out this thick stack of paper that had my reference number on it apparently. And then she went to town, just like stamp, 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 just stamping and stamping and stamping and stamping. She was the master stamper. She put a bunch of stamps in my passport, handed it back to me, and then, to my amazement, she came around from her desk and stood in front of me and handed it to me in person. And then she pointed out the stamp that she had just given me. And then she sort of explained it to me and talked about it. She said, okay, this was all in English. She had a big smile on her face. She was like engaging me with tons of eye contact. It was amazing. And she said, okay, you can now stay in Thailand up until November 30th. And then she went on to explain further. She said that if you wish to stay in Thailand beyond that point, you can just come back to our office and you can apply for the new 60-day tourist visa that they've created for this very situation. And it will cost 1,900 baht. And on top of all that, she then went to a box and got out a copy of the form that I would need to fill out if I want to get this 60-day tourist visa, and handed me the copy in advance. It just blew my mind. It was just a efficient, I would call that, as far as bureaucracy goes, a perfect interaction from beginning to end. She went above and beyond the call of her duty. So I now have the extension of stay until November 30th, and I did not have to submit any documents or fill out any forms or sign anything. It was all just done automatically. So yeah, it was a great little interaction. And just for fun, I went from the immigration office down to the border with Myanmar. Myanmar is just across the river to my left, and I'm just walking along the sidewalk here beside the river. I wasn't sure whether I'd even be allowed to be here because there is a heightened concern for people crossing the border illegally from Myanmar right now, and I assume there'd be a much greater military presence and police presence here, and so far that seems to be right. And all of these shops on my left, they usually have things for sale, kind of a gray market or black market, or maybe it's an official market, I don't know, but they sell alcohol and cigarettes and items like that. And right now they're all closed. Everything is shut down. Yeah, I came walking along here once before with my camera, and I ran into quite a few soldiers, but I was allowed to continue along the river. But here, apparently, things have changed, and you can only go a short distance. So from here, yeah, it's blocked off. Yeah, that's where I went last time, but you can't go any further right now. So this is as far as I can go. Near that part of the walkway that's blocked off, there were 7 or 8 soldiers, and there's some kind of a checkpoint there. So I don't think you can even walk along the road in that direction. So this is as far as I'll be able to go. And that is it for my walk along the river, I guess. So far, the soldiers have taken hard looks at me and my GoPro, but nobody has stopped me to ask me any questions or anything. But I do not want to push my luck, so I think I will head back into Mae Sot. I'm quite interested in these communities alongside the river. There are quite a few houses back there. They look clearly like kind of temporary homes. I'm guessing that most of the people that live in these riverside communities are from Myanmar, and they're probably here on some kind of a refugee status. But I don't know that for sure. I wonder if the people that live down there permanently are even allowed to come up here and go into the town. I don't have any idea what their official status is, the people that live down there. There was one tiny wrinkle with this whole situation at immigration. I'm still kind of thinking it through. When the immigration clerk was explaining how I could get the new 60-day tourist visa, she was talking about the embassy letter and said, okay, when you come back to get the 60-day visa, you bring, a letter from your embassy. So I asked her about that. It says, oh, so we will need another letter from our embassy in order to get this visa. And she says, no, you don't need that letter. And that's when she got the form for me to look at, because she showed on the form that says, if you can't get a letter from your embassy, you just check this box, doot, doot, and then you fill out the form, and then you pay 1,900 baht. So I was a little bit confused, because she said, you need to bring this letter from your embassy, but you don't need a letter from the embassy. All you have to do is tick this box. So if I understood her correctly, that if you bring a letter from your embassy, you don't have to fill out this form. But if you can't get a letter from your embassy, then you just have to fill out this simple form that says, I can't get a letter from the embassy. So what does it mean? Basically, that means the letter from the embassy is meaningless. Nobody needs one. All you have to do is tick a box on a form. So, yeah. Anyway, other than that, all good news. Much better news than I expected. And as I said, the interaction itself was so personable and friendly, with all the eye contact I could desire. So very happy about that. This is a monument here at the river, the Moy River, and they call it the westernmost point. And I'm assuming, actually I have no idea what that means. Is that the westernmost point on this river? The westernmost point of Thailand? Because I don't think it is. If I can picture the map of Thailand in my mind, I think there are sections of Thailand that are much further west than here. But I could be wrong. I'll have to check the map and see. A lot of river dogs hanging out here, having a good time. Here is a map of Tak province. Yeah, it's quite an unusually shaped province. The long, skinny section heading up there. And this is where we are right here, Mesot. And this is where I am at the moment. I'm right here on this border point with Myanmar. And there is a kind of a tourist map of Mesot. Yeah, I haven't seen this map before. I'm gonna just check it out for a few minutes. If anyone is curious about the geography, this is where I am, down on the border here with Myanmar, and the taxi took me along this road, I believe. Let's see, how does this go? And then down this road into Mesot itself. Yeah, that's right. Came along here. Well, starting point was, here's the police station, the main station. My guest house is right beside the police station. And I got my taxi right here. And the taxi went up to the main highway and then down the highway to the border. And that's about 6 or 7 kilometers, that trip there. And this is downtown Mesot, which is where I spend most of my time walking around all through here. I've been down here quite a few times, of course, but it takes me by surprise every time to see the changes. Everything here was closed. And of course, this is the Friendship Bridge across into Myanmar. And this would normally be a sea of activity, like an absolute sea of human activity, with hundreds and hundreds of people crowding along these narrow sidewalks and then flowing through all of these offices to get their various visas and temporary border passes stamped. And there's just a flow of humanity going back and forth across this bridge day and night. It's like the lifeblood of two countries, and right now there isn't a single person in sight anywhere. A couple of businesses are open. I saw a restaurant behind me that had a few men in uniform from the Immigration Bureau, I believe, but that's about it. This little furniture shop is open. But other than that, there's just nothing going on. It can be particularly weird for me because I do have such a strong interest in science fiction, post-apocalyptic stories. The most recent movie I watched came about almost by accident. It popped up on the internet as a recommendation for me. It was an Australian science fiction movie called 2067. And it was another post-apocalyptic time travel movie. And it's not a great movie. I don't recommend that anyone track it down or spend 2 hours of your life watching it. But the writer and director, I think it was the same person, wrote it and directed it. He clearly had ambitious ideas for the movie. He really wanted to make something special. And the story, in the end, sort of followed the usual template for a time travel movie where this guy travels into the future in this last bid to save humanity. He had a team of scientists who put together a time machine, and they got a message from the future, and they thought this message said there was a cure in the future for the disease that was decimating the human race. And so they sent this guy into the future in response to this message. And of course, I mean, I won't spoil the movie in case you do watch it, but things follow the usual logic of a time travel movie that's trying to be clever, where, of course, you run into all kinds of paradoxes, where you're trying to change something that has already happened, and yet how can you change the past? Because if you change the past, you wouldn't even be here. You know, the situation that existed that propelled you into the future, if you manage to change the past, that situation wouldn't even happen anymore. On and on and on. So the characters deal with all these issues. But I was only thinking of it because this movie was filled with images of an empty world, completely foreign to the way life used to be. And I'm standing right in the middle of it. It's not science fiction. There is the busy, normally very busy highway, completely empty of traffic except for a couple of motorbikes. And then the border crossing, the bridge to Myanmar, completely shut down. Anyway. If you added a few fires in the distance with smoke and a couple of rampaging looters and gangs, this would be kind of a post-apocalyptic world I'm walking through right now. Except in all these movies that I watch, in all these post-apocalyptic worlds, none of the characters have access to what I have access to, and that is, ta-da, 7-Eleven. So as long as 7-Eleven exists and I can go in to get a cold drink, life is not too bad. By the way, the movie is not that great, but the trailer for 2067 is actually quite interesting. They put a lot of scenes in the trailer that make it look like a much more sophisticated kind of blockbuster movie than it really is. They did spend a fair amount of money on special effects when you look at it from that point of view, and the trailer shows that. So it looks kind of like a Blade Runner-ish kind of world that they live in. And that's what he originally piqued my interest. I thought, wow, that looks kind of elaborate and kind of cool. And the technology in that world interested me. So I thought, hey, I'll watch this movie. But the movie did get a bit bogged down in some overly talky scenes that just went on and on with the characters and personal issues they have to work through. And some of what they were talking about and feeling, I didn't really understand at all. It's like, why are you so worked up about this? I don't quite get what you guys are talking about. So it did get bogged down in a lot of discussion as they're trying to save the human race. But still, the trailer was kind of fun. So check out the trailer for 2067. So I think I'm going to hop on a motorcycle taxi to take me back into Riverside. I was thinking about walking back, but nah, I'm kind of in the mood to head back quicker, more easily. And I see one guy hanging out over there waiting for customers. It's the only place I've come across out here where the motorcycle dudes are hanging out. I think the same guy has driven me 2 or 3 times already. I think I recognize him. Well, we are off. That's it, back in Riverside. And this time, after I got off the motorcycle, I was able to take off the helmet by myself. Before I put it on, I looked at the buckle mechanism just to make sure I knew exactly where to press to take it off. So I'm learning. I'm not such a dummy. So when I got off, I was like, okay, I know how to do this. And I unclipped it. Feeling very proud of myself for knowing how to unclip a motorcycle helmet. And I'm back. That whole operation, as I said, was much easier than I expected it to be, and I'm very pleased about that. So, that's it for now. I'm almost back at my guest house once again. There it is ahead of me. There's always a little bit of traffic going around this snake corner. If you're not careful, if you walk up this side and you come around this corner, you can surprise somebody. So I always try and come at it from a safe angle and stick to the sides. I think that is it for this morning's video anyway. And I will see you next time. Oddly enough, I missed my chance. These two are taking that taxi, motorcycle taxi. But the guy indicated that I could just sit here and wait and someone else will eventually show up. I'm always interested in how these places are organized. I mean, they must be organized to an extent. I can see here there are numbers on this board, and I think these numbers correspond with the various drivers, I guess, that are allowed to work out of this spot. And there appears to even be a set of fares here, how much it should cost to go to certain places and cover certain distances. Of course, none of that really means anything, as far as I'm aware, but But I am curious what kind of system exists behind the scenes for how these guys operate, how they get their licenses, are they licensed, how payment is organized. Are they all just independent businesses, each to his own, just keeps all the money he makes in a day? Or is he keeping a record and handing it in to an office somewhere and collects a salary from them? Who pays for the maintenance and upkeep of the motorcycles, insurance, any of that kind of stuff? Of course, I don't know any of it, and I have no way of learning any of that stuff. So I'll just wait for a motorcycle to show up.